I've always been attracted to the supporting cast of Attack on Titan. Whether it be Connie, John, Sasha, or Hitch, these are characters that bring color to the world of Attack on Titan by adding variety and depth to a series that could get away without it, as it already has so much variety and depth in the main cast alone. So you shouldn't be surprised when I say Hitch Drace has a fascinating story that I think most can relate to. So let's jump into it. This is the fascinating story of Hitch Drace. But did you know we just hit 1,100 followers on Twitter, which means we are only 400 followers away from an Attack on Titan themed giveaway here on YouTube. All you need to do is follow me on Twitter where, if you're interested, I talk about all things anime and more. Plus, it's a good way to have a conversation with me. So follow me there, at SeaTacticsYT. Hitch's story begins rather humorously as someone who wants to join the military police brigade because she realizes how corrupt the MPs are and wants to benefit from that system herself and live out an easy life. Though she didn't realize that because of that corruption, many tasks are handed down to recruits like herself. A cruel twist of fate indeed. Maybe one a bit crueler is she's assigned to a group consisting of Annie Leonhardt, Marlowe, and Boris. Upon Annie's arrival, she gives her a hard time for being late, though it's actually Boris that reminds Hitch that Annie's the only one with real combat experience. Hitch isn't above making a joke at the expense of her comrades, and it shows how immature she is at this stage of her life. Her dream is literally to take advantage of a corrupt system so that she doesn't have to do anything. We can see further examples of this when Marlowe reveals that he wanted to become an MP to work his way up the ranks and clear out said corruption. Hitch calls him one of those guys, while he and Annie have a constructive conversation. Marlowe believes that the way men and women are supposed to be is proper, upright citizens who do good work and contribute the correct way in whatever position they're in, while Annie believes that people like Marlowe are actually very rare in this world, and his unwillingness to go with the flow makes him special. So with that being said, what is everyone else called if Marlowe is the special one? Well, in Annie's eyes, it's simple. They're normal people at the end of the day. All Annie wants to be considered is human by Marlowe. This makes Marlowe have a revelation that it's not the people who are corrupt or evil, but the system that corrupts itself, while Hitch still finds it a boring conversation. Of course, you may be wondering, this is a Hitch video, not an Annie one, but discussing this is kind of necessary as Annie, Hitch, and Marlowe all thread into one another, which is the point of this scene. Though, if you guys want a standalone Annie Leonhardt video, then please drop a like and let me know in the comments. Though, Hitch's reaction here is rather interesting, and based on first impressions, you can tell Hitch is pretty immature. Also, Hitch is rather mischievous around her friends and loves to tease them relentlessly. Maybe in some ways going much further than she should when Boris implies that Annie may be scarred as she's the only one with combat experience. In other words, Hitch is an annoyingly immature person at this stage in her life. Even in the Lost Girls OVA as an example, she pawns off the responsibility of finding a missing person to Annie so that she'll agree to cover for her taking the day off. Think about that, a missing person. Hitch executed a Hitch ditch on her own responsibilities. We don't see Hitch until much later in season 3 of Attack on Titan when they are captured by the AWOL Survey Corps. This scene shows off a lot of what I consider to be the worst and the best of Hitch's personality and gives us insight into the woman she would eventually become. By her own words, she's stuck with Marlowe patrolling the forests outside of Trost trying to see if they can find the Survey Corps. Hitch makes a jab about not wanting to be partnered with Marlowe, most likely because of how boring she thinks he is, and needles him, suggesting he wanted to get some alone time with her. But in typical Hitch fashion, not even Marlowe wants to be with Hitch. How sad. Yet deserving. Though Marlowe wonders, isn't it strange that the Survey Corps would just go around killing civilians like this? Also, the fact that they found out about a Titan shifter and tried to deal with the problem as best they could. If they were enemies of humanity, wouldn't they aid the female Titan? Hitch counters that it's not at all strange. Aaron and Annie turned into Titans and fought each other, killing people in the process. Both Hitch and Marlowe aren't wrong in their judgments, as these are great points that establish how one action can be seen as good, but may have unintended negative outcomes, especially in war. Though, it's when Hitch talks about the disappearance of Annie that makes me perk up. When describing how she's still MIA, she brings up how Annie's things are still taking up room as they're just sitting there. This to me shows a couple of really great things about Hitch's personality. One, she doesn't hate Annie despite her constant needling and prodding, which shows as well that Hitch doesn't tease people out of hate, but out of a sense of self-satisfaction. If she did hate Annie, surely she would throw away Annie's belongings, but instead she keeps them around, and I suspect from the way she says it, she thought pretty highly of Annie and misses her. This wouldn't surprise me though, as the speech Annie gave to Marlowe was something that probably resonated with Hitch, as the normal person she was describing was very much a representation of Hitch. But while talking about this, Hitch hears someone nearby where they find Armin. But as Admiral Akbar would say, it's a trap, and they are captured by the Survey Corps, and their gear was taken. But it's Hitch, in one of her first brilliant moments as a person, speaks up about the people they killed in Stowe District and how it affected everyone else. These Survey Corps members, they aren't heroes, they're villains, the bad people, is pretty much what she says. When she notices that some members actually have similar uniforms as Annie, she questions them what kind of person that she was, if they ever got to know her, because she was a dark and antisocial person who didn't really talk much. But now that she's likely ripped to shreds and dead, she'll never get the chance to talk with Annie again. The reason this was such a brilliant moment for Hitch is that it shows how thoughtful and caring this girl is behind her derisive jabs and jaded demeanors. She was so observant of Annie's character that she realized how antisocial she was and regretted not taking the chance to get closer to her when she had it. She truly wanted to help Annie come out of her shell, and in that sense, it's such a shame that we never got to see the kind of effect Hitch could have had on Annie. Though thankfully, Annie is still alive, so maybe that relationship will one day be mended. And speaking of, upon hearing that Annie was the female Titan, Hitch is left speechless. Not only has she gotten confirmation that a woman she thought was long dead is alive, leading to the possibility of mending those bridges, well, she's also the enemy. I couldn't imagine what Hitch could be going through. I mean, we can only imagine, but this is without a doubt a turning point in Hitch's character. The reason is that not many people get second chances at, well, anything. Now that Hitch has that second chance, she has learned a valuable lesson. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Seize what's in front of you now and nurture it, because one day, like all good things, it will come to pass like the sunlight into nighttime. After Marlowe decides to join the Survey Corps and hitches stick to the side of John's horse-shaped head, John mentions how Marlowe reminds him of a certain idiot. Of course, I have an entire video on that idiot, but now, on the side of humanity, Marlowe and Hitch lead Squad Levi in their operation to overthrow the government, which they are successful in doing so. They even help in taking down the Titanized Rod Reese. This leads us down the long and winding road of Hitch and Marlowe. After taking out Rod Reese, Marlowe decides that he wants to join the Survey Corps, though not before Hitch can object. Marlowe, channeling peak Marco energy, joins anyways, ignoring Hitch's words. It's rather humorous. Every single one of the Survey Corps members, even Connie, Sasha, and John, in other words, capital idiots with a lowercase I, realize Marlowe is dumb to the point to where it pisses a lot of them off. Though, poor Mikasa, Aaron still doesn't get it. The reason this was such a big point of contention with everyone else is that Marlowe is too dense to realize Hitch probably liked him, like, a lot. Tits for the fellas out there. If your girl is telling you not to leave, then you stay. Them's just the rules. I don't make them. It didn't seem like their relationship got to any real point though, where they were probably a thing, but it's just interesting because of how the two have developed over time. Hitch initially seems very cold towards Marlowe because he's boring. He's one of those people, then again reacts very coldly when they get paired up to patrol the forests of Trost. Though it seems that ever since then, Hitch seems to have grown to like Marlowe in such a way that she fears for his safety and doesn't want him to join the Survey Corps. Now, you can come up with your headcanon for the real reason why that is. Was it an opposites attract scenario? Did Hitch just like the cut of his jib or his haircut for that matter? Whatever it may be, you'd have to think that after losing Annie, Hitch doesn't want to lose anyone else, even if it is the boring guy who says a lot of boring things and reminds people of dumb people. They simply didn't realize the feelings they had for each other, and it took Marlowe losing his life for him to realize his place wasn't on the battlefield, but in the NPs with a sleeping Hitch. Then when hearing about Marlowe's death from Flock after he tells Hitch he was probably thinking of her, well, sad face, man. That's just brutal. 4 years later, we're introduced to a new Hitch, one sporting a more mature look and straight hair, a far cry from the messy bedhead we once knew. Our reintroduction of Hitch is actually rather humorous as well. She catches Armin touching Annie's crystal and needles him for it. Classic Hitch. Oh, let's be real, Armin. What indeed were you trying to do to Annie? No nose knows except for the nose. Though, it's not like Hitch is going to ban Armin from seeing Annie anyways, instead keeps him around to keep her company. Little did Hitch know that this decision not to ban Armin is one of the best she's ever made. Though the short conversation Hitch has with Armin and Mikasa shows that Hitch has matured quite a bit, not complaining as much about her duties as an NP any longer. It seems that she's moved past the immature dreams of using the corrupt nature of the former regime to benefit herself. Though it's not until a little later that we see Hitch pop up again when Eren Yeager activates the rumbling. This action would cause many buildings to collapse or be destroyed by the Wall Titans stomping their way through their destination. Hitch, being an NP, helps the citizens trapped under the rubble to get them medical aid and shelter. But after hearing about the unrest going on between Yeagerist supporters and citizens, Hitch decides their best action is to rally up and arm themselves so that they can control the situation better. This little bit here is another example of how Hitch has mellowed out and shows empathy for her fellow man and woman. Something that if you'd ask Marlowe, Annie, or Boris, they'd probably laugh if you told them Hitch did even one of those things. But now, as a senior officer of the military police, Hitch has turned into quite a fine woman despite still being somewhat rough around the edges in many ways. But after rallying some fellow MPs, she finds a trail of liquid leading from the basement Annie was located in. Following the trail, she's eventually ambushed by freshly squeezed Annie Leonhard, who she easily overtakes as she's incredibly weak from being in a crystal for over, I'm not counting, but 4 years. Annie then threatens her that if she doesn't do what she says, she'll transform into a Titan, killing everyone. Hitch, showing empathy for her comrades, decides to give in to Annie's demands of escaping the Stohess district by playing it off as convenient for her to do as well. On the horse ride out of there, Hitch confronts Annie about her decisions as a Titan shifter and if she's satisfied with her actions. And while Annie's story is for another day and another video, drop a comment and a like if you want to see that, this is an example of Hitch's, well, really good quality of calling people on their crap or saying what needs to be said. She did the same for Captain Levi in a situation where she could have kept quiet, but didn't. Hitch speaks up for herself and others, even when the situation doesn't benefit her directly. But after hearing Annie's story, she thanks her for sharing as she's appreciative. After all of these years, and even with Annie's betrayal, Hitch, just like she said in the forest, never got the chance to talk to Annie, and now she finally has. Hitch caught the moment and held on to it, completing her character's arc. To me, Hitch is a representation of the common man and woman, me and you. She thinks in her youth that she can just take advantage of an opportunity, but doesn't have the experience to know that the opportunity would take advantage of her. And when she loses her friends around her, she regrets not sticking closer to them and being there as a friend, cursing her needling and teasing. She's a person who experiences hard times and plenty of loss, maybe the loss of the love of her life at that, and combined with gaining experiences and learning empathy, which is one of the reasons she has so many boy issues, she's grown to be quite mature in her early 20s. Hitch's story is kind of like a cautionary tale of just appreciating what you have and realizing what you have, seizing upon the opportunities which arise from these relationships around you, and being empathetic. In other words, she's one of the most normal people in all of Attack on Titan. She's just a girl who entered the military through dishonest means and became friends with a lonely and aloof girl, learning along the way the values of friendship, empathy, and many other qualities. And that, the fascinating story of Hitch Trace. Though you don't have to be lonely and aloof, check out my previous character analysis videos on Gabby Braun and Flock Forster, unless you want Andy to put you in an armbar, which I'm sure you don't want. And if you do, you know what? Just go check out those videos.